Today, we are focusing on the unique challenges faced by startups and scale-ups, the significant impact of emerging companies, and the critical considerations for strategic talent acquisition.
So, starting any business is obviously full of all kinds of challenges and opportunities. If you're a founder and you've managed to be able to secure funding and get cash flow going, there's a whole other set of challenges.
You've stated, Anuj, that the best talent for an organization may not always be the most obvious person. Now, what skills, experience, and insights are crucial for identifying true capability, potential, and promise in candidates?
I would say this starts way before the interview. The interview is one of many steps in the process.
Hi there, founders and business leaders. Are you navigating the exciting but challenging journey of scaling your company? Remember, strategic talent acquisition is crucial for sustained growth and realizing your bigger vision. Hi, this is Kripa Anand, and welcome to the CanadianSME Small Business Podcast, where we explore the strategies and insights that fuel the growth of innovative Canadian companies. Today, we are focusing on the unique challenges faced by startups and scale-ups, the significant impact of emerging companies, and the critical considerations for strategic talent acquisition. Now, recent trends highlight the rapid growth and potential of Canadian startups and scale ups, as well as the increasing importance of effective hiring strategies to support this expansion. This discussion today will provide valuable guidance for founders, business leaders, and anyone involved in building high growth organizations. Joining us today is Anuj Rastogi, Managing Director of BackStretch, a recruiting partner specializing in scaled hiring for innovative, high growth companies. With a focus on de risking and accelerating talent outcomes, Anuj brings a wealth of experience in helping companies build their teams for success. Today, we'll discuss the challenges of growth and scaling, the future impact of emerging companies, and key considerations for recruiting and hiring. Let's begin. Navigating the path from startup to scale up is an exciting yet challenging journey, right? To begin with, Anuj, please shed some light on what are most significant challenges that startup and scale up businesses typically encounter as they navigate periods of rapid growth and scaling.
So, that's a great place to start the conversation. And no matter what kind of business you are at any stage, ultimately, there's all sorts of challenges, especially when you're a new company and new startup. Securing cash flow, securing funding, dealing with all sorts of macroeconomic forces. But at the end of the day, the success of any business really comes down to its people. And I think that that's something that we forget all too often. If a business succeeds or fails, it really comes down to the people. If a business has got consistent cash flow, it's because the people managing the cash flow knew what they were doing.
Right.
If the business manages to find a way to create a product that people just love,
Right.
it's because the people in those product teams and leadership really paid attention to the customers and what they were looking for.
Right.
Conversely, if a business fails or is slowing down because its technology stack is antiquated or they're not able to innovate, it's because the people weren't listening to the signs from the market and from other people inside the organization. So if the people are the most important thing that you're going to bring into an organization, it's the most important decision, then you also have to recognize that this isn't something that everybody is great at. What I mean is not everybody is great at the art and science of hiring. And it is a muscle that you need to build over time.
Right.
And that is really, I think, critical for business leaders to kind of come to realize, because if people are the most important thing, why would you settle on the most important decision that you're going to make, right? And I think it really comes down to a lot of leaders ultimately get frustrated because hiring is just really hard. It's not even just hard, it's broken.
Right.
And because it's broken, a lot of leaders, a lot of people hiring just settle. They've seen 50, 60, 100 different candidates. They've screened 1,000 different resumes. They select the first few that kind of jump out from that, and then they just make a decision from that pool. And what ultimately happens is they may have made what they thought was the best decision from that pool that they selected from, but that person's still not the right fit for the growth of the business. So
it was the right fit from that particular group of people. So the sample size was small, is what you're trying to say.
It could be that the sample size was small, or it could be that the sample size wasn't the right sample to begin with.
Right.
So one of the things that people don't really pay enough attention to is quality in the hiring. When I say quality, I don't mean that one person is better or worse than another person, but it's quality of fit for your organization at that moment in time and for your future. And there's so many things that make a person more rich and robust as a professional, as an individual, than what you'll just find in their resume, right? And that really is one of the biggest mistakes that we see people making, is that you have to remember, you're not hiring a resume. You're hiring a human. You're not hiring a LinkedIn profile. You're trying to hire a human. And we forget that.
All right, that was very well articulated, and that's a very insightful overview as well. It's clear that rapid growth presents a unique set of hurdles for these companies. I think understanding these challenges is the first step to overcoming them. So, kudos to you guys for doing that. Now, building on these challenges, let's look at the bigger picture and the impact these emerging companies will have on Canada and the world. Now, Anuj, emerging companies are at the forefront of innovation, bringing fresh ideas and solutions that have the potential to reshape industries and economies. In your view, how will these innovative, high growth companies contribute to, drive, and ultimately shape the future of Canada and the global landscape?
So it's no surprise to anyone watching this right now in 2025 that we are in a very different period. There is so much economic uncertainty, there's tariffs, there's a changing geopolitical landscape. We just came out of an election here as well. And in the midst of all that, we have the increasing proliferation of AI, right? And automation. And all of these different macro forces are essentially creating an inward or downward force that's pushing and changing work itself, right? The way we work, the kind of work that we have available to us is all completely different. And in that context, it's our belief that new purpose-driven companies in Canada in particular are going to have a huge outsized impact. So it's easy to think about the future of work and the largest companies, the large banks, the large retailers, the Fortune 500 companies having an impact. And obviously they have a very important role. But if you think about a country like Canada and many others, but in Canada, small and medium business really is the economic engine.
Exactly. 99% of all the businesses here are SMBs.
Absolutely. And so why is that the case? Well, first of all, Canada is a huge country geographically. It's very spread out. You need people serving and servicing different markets. They need to be able to actually understand the pulse of those individual markets. A small and medium business really plays that. It also creates a whole set of opportunities for people that might not have access to jobs in other places. It creates all kinds of interesting and new opportunities for new immigrants to the country, but it also creates a lot of opportunities for long established people who have been here for generations when they're looking to change their careers, right? Or if they have a new idea. And so if we are going to, I think, overcome a lot of the challenges in our future, not just as a country, but as a world, from climate change to better healthcare to new technologies around learning. Those innovations, in large part, are going to come out of startups. They're going to come out of new innovative companies. And that's really important because those companies need access to the best possible talent that's out there. And, on that note, I think it's really important. We often take work for granted. Work is really important. Work is the lifeblood for pretty much everyone, right? Whether it's your ability to do the things you want in your life, put your kids in that school, move to that neighborhood, be able to take your family on vacation, whether it's to give back to your community. Having work, and particularly meaningful work, it doesn't just affect the employee who's working, it affects their family, their friends, their community. And so if work itself is at risk, and we want to be able to find people an opportunity to create new meaning in their life, that's really important. So I see it as a tragedy right now that we have thousands of companies looking for people and thousands of people looking for work, and they can't find each other. So I do think that the small, medium businesses are that new engine that's going to shape the economy. It's going to introduce new innovations. And we often forget about how important Canada has actually been on the world stage historically. The original research that led to mRNA vaccines started out at the University of British Columbia. the godfather of modern AI, Geoffrey Hinton, is from the U of T.
Right.
Canada punches way above its weight in so many fronts. And so I think that we really need to seize this opportunity.
That's a very optimistic and forward looking perspective. It's exciting to think about the potential of these emerging companies to drive significant growth. Hi there, founders and business leaders. Are you navigating the exciting but challenging journey of scaling your company? Remember, strategic talent acquisition is crucial for sustained growth and realizing your bigger vision. Now, let's get back to our conversation with Anuj and explore key considerations for recruiting and hiring. Now, Anuj, let's dive into how, identifying the right candidates and aligning them with your business vision can truly set your company up for success. As businesses grow and scale, having the right team in place is essential for continued success. Anuj, according to you, what are the most critical factors that business leaders, founders, and owners need to consider when recruiting, hiring, and growing their teams and ensure optimal success during, periods of rapid expansion? All the things that you just mentioned that, they don't take care of those things. What exactly are those things?
So the founder at BackStretch, Matthew Height, and we really connected on this notion of an abundance mindset.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that we can't think about the future from a perspective of scarcity. There really is a lot of opportunity out there. There's also a lot of work. There's a June 2024 U.S. Department of Labor, I believe, released statistics that there was, for every one job that there was in the economy, there was 0.8 people looking, meaning that there was more jobs than people. Now, I don't know what the data was for Canada at that time, and obviously things have changed a bit. But the fact is that there are a lot of people looking and there's a lot of work.
Right.
But what founders also forget is that when you don't bring the right people into your company or into your organization, it has a huge impact.
Right.
So another stat is that 90% of startups will fail. They'll fail to have long-term success, long-term meaning 5 or more years.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're in a room in a conference with a bunch of excited founders and you see 10 of them there, 6 years from now, only one might still be standing. Why is that? It's almost always back down to the people, because the decisions they made about the people they brought into the organization weren't the best ones for the organization at that point in time.
Right.
So it's really critical that business leaders, founders, anyone doing any sort of hiring really understand that you're hiring for quality. As I mentioned earlier, you're not hiring a resume, you're hiring a human. And so that also means not just looking at, does this person meet the exact criteria of 7 years of this experience and 4 years of that? Because that doesn't tell you what this person is fully capable of. And often the best talent is off the beaten path. Like, you have to dig a little bit deeper. It might be that person that's not so obvious that completely transforms your organization. So I would say to founders, if the people you're working with and that you're building your lives with are the most critical thing, then don't settle. That's something that Matt at BackStretch has been saying for a long time. You can't compromise there. But then also put in the work to get to know every person that you're bringing into your organization, because that person may make or break it.
So you're saying that you should have a personal connection before hiring that person, right?
It certainly helps to have that personal connection. That may not be possible in all cases, right? Particularly as we have increased hybrid and remote work, you might not be able to meet everybody. Even from a scheduling perspective, it might be difficult. But some of the most successful companies, especially at that growth stage, have actually had their CEO on, offer meetings with candidates. So that certainly does help. But what I mean is that put the work into actually understanding every candidate that you're bringing in and look for quality. Quality just doesn't mean that they've had 18 years of a particular technology background or that they've worked in exactly that market or industry. Right. Because that doesn't necessarily indicate that they're going to be successful in the future. What does often indicate that is their adaptability, their growth mindset, their ability to learn and seize new challenges. And also, are they motivated by the business that you're running, the purpose that you have? If you're running a business in trying to democratize healthcare for seniors and make it more accessible, does this person really care about that cause? Do they have a story in their own life, right? Someone else who might not have the same criteria, but has seen perhaps grandparents or elders suffering through the healthcare system, may be so motivated that they're exactly the person that you're looking for, right? So don't just try to settle. Ultimately, I think that's the main message. Don't settle when it comes to your people.
That's a very comprehensive set of considerations. It's clear that a strategic and thoughtful approach to talent acquisition is paramount. All right, we're going to take a short break right here, but when we return, we'll understand more from Anuj.
Hey, you think you know UPS? Yeah, that's us. Everybody knows that. You know what you didn't know? This. Okay, try to keep up. Ocean, us. Ground, rail, air, so us. Guess who? Us. Customs cleared, borders cleared, done. Us. Still with me? Wait for it. Boom. Us. Intelligent, automated, fulfillment. Us. Yep. Healthcare too. Digital your thing? Yeah. Well, book it, ship it, track it. You feeling me yet? Yep. That's all us. That's all UPS.
Welcome back to all the listeners. Let's continue our conversation with Anuj. Now, identifying true potential in candidates is key, right? We all talked about that. Let's now discuss how to assess these qualities effectively during the recruiting process. You've stated, Anuj, that the best talent for an organization may not always be the most obvious person, right? Now, what skills, experience, and insights are crucial for identifying true capability, potential, and promise in candidates? The reason I ask this question is because everyone says all the goody things in the interviews, right? How do you actually filter and get down to the bottom of who is actually truly meaning it from the heart?
So it's a good question. I would say this starts way before the interview. The interview is one of many steps in the process,
Yeah.
right? So it's really important, I think, first and foremost, to put quality as number one, right? Quality in the pipeline of your talent,
Right.
quality in every step in that process, and make it the best it possibly can be. Because that sends a signal to the candidate. It tells you what you want to be as an organization. It also, to a large extent, shapes the employer brand that you have in the market, right?
Yeah.
Which really does matter. Are you a company that the best people really want to be at, for
Right.
example? In terms of the characteristics someone would need to have to be able to identify that talent, I think it's a combination of four things. One is creativity. Creativity in that you are open to looking at different avenues to be able to find the best possible talent. Now, everybody's got access to the same tools, right? Everyone's got access to the same technologies, the same platforms, Indeed, LinkedIn, etc. So in that context, what differentiates one person finding the best quality candidates from another? It's really that person, right? And the way in which that they operate. So being creative in how you approach that work is important. Curiosity is absolutely critical. Be inquisitive. Like, try to actually dig deep and understand what makes this person tick. If you see a profile, because you were creative in the first step, and you see a profile that might actually be really interesting, spend a little bit of time to understand, okay, why is this, okay, this person might have jumped between a couple of jobs or took a leave. That doesn't necessarily rule them out. Maybe there's actually something there, right? So being curious, even from the perspective of sourcing, all the way through to the interview, right? Like really understanding a person's motivations, what drives them, what inspires them. From there, I think another point that I mentioned earlier, there's a huge difference between the resume or what's on LinkedIn and the actual human.
Right.
And the actual human is the one that you're trying to hire. So you have to have, I think, an intuition and a real desire to understand the difference between those two. So two people who might have very different resumes also may have completely different capabilities. And the one that you would have otherwise ignored might be the right fit, right? So you have to have, I think, the humility to be able to recognize that in yourself. And then you have to be able to have the intuition to say, this person is actually driven by something different, right? Than just what's evident here on this resume. So that would be the third thing. And the final thing I would say on that is a deep desire to understand the business. So if you're hiring, whether it's internally, whether you're a partner working with a firm, you need to understand the business. You need to understand what is the mission of the business. How does it operate? What is the culture of that organization, right? Because no two companies, even if they're in the same industry, in the same geography, are exactly the same, right? So you might have two candidates in a hypothetical scenario in front of you. On one hand, you think one is best fit for one of the companies, but ultimately, if you actually dig a little bit deeper, again, because you're curious, you're creative, and you understand the things that make that organization tick, you're in a better place to put a better candidate in front of them, right? Or you're in a better place to hire and invest the time in actually bringing on the right person in the first place. So those would be the four, I would say.
Those are some, very actionable advice, I'd say, for all the listeners. And I think everyone will relate to this. And it's really just about looking beyond the surface and evaluating candidates holistically. Now, the success with Certain is a great example of BackStretch's effective approach. Let's now discuss how these, accomplishments are shaping your approach to future partnerships and scaling operations. Now, BackStretch has achieved significant success in placing a large number of hires for Certain. Please go ahead and highlight some of the key aspects of what this partnership and is, first of all, and what it demonstrates about BackStretch's bigger capabilities.
So first of all, big shout out to the people over at Certain. They have been an incredible partner, and I think it's a real Canadian success story. So Certain is in the business of, they've built out and they leverage AI and automated tools for background screening, right? Globally. And what they do is they make that entire process for organizations a lot easier and a lot less painful, or more painless, I shall say. And it's exciting as a Canadian success story and just a startup success story because they managed to raise over a Series A and B by 2023. I believe it was $103 million. That's a huge amount of raise, right? At the point where they were growing. But now if you think about it from the moment of truth where you've been able to secure that much funding, the next most critical thing that they needed to be able to do was to bring on the right people at the right time into the right roles at the right velocity, right? So if you're going to scale an organization that's promising like that clearly the market recognizes has potential, you need to bring on the right people. So we partnered with Certain, and over the course of that relationship, brought on 194 new hires in 19 months. Now, that's not 194 people in a company of 10,000. We're talking about a company that was getting off the ground.
Right.
And
so each person that you hired mattered very much.
Absolutely, right? Absolutely. It's critical that, and I think that's a big part of the success that Certain's actually had. So because they were really intentional about making sure that every person had an impact on the organization, was the right fit for where the organization was growing, and because they had a very similar, I think, mentality on the regard for people and quality in the process as BackStretch does, they've been a great partner from that perspective. So I think it's a great success story, and it shows that you can actually scale and grow responsibly. And many of those people that we brought on into Certain have gone on to have great careers there. They've been promoted. They've done all sorts of really high impact things as well.
Great, and those are definitely some, impressive numbers and demonstrates a strong and effective partnership. Now, successfully placing that many hires across various, divisions, various industries, and across various levels speaks volumes about BackStretch's expertise. Now, to conclude, Anuj, let's summarize the key insights for our listeners and offer some final advice. But before we do that, if I were to give you a time machine right now, and if, say, you were to go 20 years down in the future, how would you imagine the future of hiring taking place?
So we're living, again, your question is asked in a really interesting time. We're in 2025 and all the talk is all about AI and agentic AI and AI agents showing up in the workforce. And that may well be an inevitability. There may well be a significant amount of automation that takes over much of the work that exists. But for the foreseeable future, and I'm hopeful that for the foreseeable future, humans are going to be necessary to do work, right? Because we like to create. That's sort of a thing that's inside of us.
Right.
So assuming that was it 25 or 50 years from now, we're still working as people, I think it's really important that these core fundamentals about us as people are still remembered, that we are not hiring resumes. We are not hiring LinkedIn profiles or whatever LinkedIn will be in 25 years. we're actually hiring people. And people are motivated by different things.
Yeah.
I think people do want to be able to create and have an impact on the organizations they work in, the communities that they are inside of. So any of these base principles that we talked about today, I would suspect still apply. Now, yes, the tooling will change. Yes, the type of work and the type of jobs will change. But I suspect we're going to be more or less driven by many of the same motivators 25 years from now as we are today.
I completely agree with what you say. The human element is always going to be very important. To conclude, Anuj, if there's one key takeaway that you'd like our listeners to remember about this entire discussion today, what would it be and why?
I would say recognize that hiring is hard. Hiring is broken, absolutely. But there's a lot that you can do about it. And the one thing that will help you the most in your journey as an organization is to refuse to settle. Quality has to be number one, because the people that you're building your company with, your organization with, you're building your livelihoods with, as Matt says, you shouldn't be settling and compromising on those people. So whatever it is, you can make compromises elsewhere. Just do not compromise on your people. Always think about what's best for the future of your organization.
That's a lovely answer. Thank you so much, Anuj, for being a part of the show, and thank you so much for sharing your expertise and valuable advice for all our listeners. That was an insightful conversation with Anuj Rastogi, Managing Director of BackStretch, on the challenges and opportunities of scaling high-growth companies and the critical considerations for strategic talent acquisition. BackStretch's expertise in de-risking and accelerating hiring provides valuable guidance for businesses looking to build their teams for long-term success. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Canadian SME Small Business Podcast. We really appreciate your continued support. Be sure to subscribe to our podcast for more expert insights and resources that can help your business thrive. Also, don't forget to visit our website, CanadianSME.ca. And lastly, a very special thank you to our podcast partners, RBC, UPS, and Google, for their ongoing commitment to empowering small businesses in Canada. Until next time, keep innovating and striving for success, and we'll see you in the next episode. Kripa Anand signing off.